out this video. This one is going to be a little sort of brief overlook. I say brief, I normally tend to ramble on and make the videos twice as long as they should be. But it's going to be like an overview video. First impressions of the Tokyo Marui MP5SD6 next generation recoil shock. So I like HK guns, I like collecting them over time. Just been sort of gradually building up a bit of a HK collection. This is obviously the latest addition to that. So I'm just going to kind of go over my first impressions of it. A bit of a chill one. I'm not going to be doing any sort of aggressive testing or real like endurance testing to do on this. There's no like gas. So there's no gas efficiency test or anything like that. It's just going to be an overview of it and yeah, first thoughts basically. Yeah. I'm going to try to not compare it too much to the VFC for now, because I want to do a dedicated video on that, like a proper side-by-side comparison versus kind of thing. I kind of try and steer clear of talking about them comparatively in this video. There will be something like that, a bit more dedicated to that, coming up in the near future. Just once I've had a bit more time on this one to really give weighted, backed up, substantial opinions on it from experience. So I'll probably draw some comparisons because it's difficult not to. I'm not about to go into get one over the other in this video because I don't know enough about it yet. I also want to get more time on the VFC one with CO2 mags to see if that solves some of the issues that may steer you towards getting an AEG. For those of you who don't know, the Tokyo Marui NGRS system, next gen recoil shock system, it's their electric blowback system, and it's not just like a little flap going backwards and forwards being pushed by air or a plate on that's connected to the gears. It's not just the dust cover that flaps back and forwards. The NGRS guns have a weight inside them that moves backwards and forwards every time you fire it, and this gives a little, it's not like a gas blowback or nowhere near like a real firearm sensation, but it just gives you a little bit of feedback, a little jolt in the shoulder, makes your hands wriggle around a little bit, and makes it feel like you're doing something more substantial than just playing with a toy gun. So it's cool. So Tokyo Marui's more premium line of AEGs. They are usually, where necessary, all metal as opposed to their old AEGs that are all plastic. And the level of quality in the finishing and everything of them is just a massive level up. It's a big positive depart from what they used to do, even though their finishing has always been great, like the G3 behind me. This is plastic, but at a glance you wouldn't know. And the quality of the plastic is just really, really good. It feels really tough, really robust. The rubberized handguard's really nice. But yeah, so I'll get into all that in much more detail as the video goes on. Just as a background, the NGRS system, Tokyo Marui's like premium AEG system, and the MP5SD is actually the latest addition to that series as well. So this has got like their most up-to-date tech in terms of electronics. Again, we'll get right into the guts of all that as the video goes on. So behind me obviously is the box that it comes in. Nothing, it's not the greatest Tokyo Marui box. It's simple, it's cool, it does the job. It comes with the little blue bow around them like Tokyo Marui do with all their guns. They try to present them quite well. Inside it's like there's like laser cut out foam and of just like a place for it to sit, and then it has Velcro straps. I'm not going to open up the box and go into it. There's plenty of videos where people unbox them and stuff. I'm pretty sure as well, if you click this link, you can find at the end of this video I did an unboxing of this. So the box inside, it comes with like an extra place for another magazine. It was like at first when they were putting the MP5s out, they were gonna include 2 magazines, which would have been a massive touch because Marui's notorious for releasing a gun and not making enough magazines for them, so everyone's just waiting around for mags for ages. So it seemed like they got these 2 cutouts inside the box for the mags to sit, and one of them is just taken up with a cardboard sleeve. So they only include 1 mag and then 1 fake cardboard mag. It's really weird. So I did get an extra mag, and it's a nice little spot for the extra mag, but the gun doesn't really live in its box. I like to keep all the accoutrements on it, so it doesn't really fit back in the box anymore. But enough about the box. When you pick this up, you are immediately greeted with a nice heft, a nice weighty, hefty, cold to touch metal replica. Now it's not stamped steel. Tokyo Marui haven't made it out of stamped steel. It's definitely some like die cast zinc aluminium alloy. So, you know, typical Marui like pot metal. I'm not gonna throw it at a wall. I expect it to last longer than, you know, a cheaper Chinese manufactured like SEMA MP5. I'm not expecting it to outdo the VFC in terms of its robust rigidity and just tough metal exterior. Like, it's not made of steel. It's really, really nice. It's finished incredibly well. It feels really nice to hold. Super hefty. I'm pretty sure it's actually, it is a little bit, because of the gearbox and stuff, it's a little bit heavier. Here we are, I'm comparing already. But yeah, take the mags out and this is definitely a bit heavier. Almost the same, but this definitely is a bit heavier. But yeah, and that's obviously because of the gearbox inside and all the internal parts. There's a lot more internal parts inside an AEG. A lot of people seem to be put off the idea of using gas blowbacks because there are far more parts to maintain and the maintenance on them is more, and they're high maintenance and you've got to do all this stuff to them to keep them working. But like, little side quest here. This is how you do maintenance on a gas blowback MP5. Pins out. Take a look inside there. If there are any obvious gunky parts, give it a wipe. Take that out. Clean all the crap off. If there's crap on it, clean all the gunky crap off, and then put a little bit of lube on it, and like just a little bit. Don't cake it in grease. Just put a little bit of grease on it. Make sure there's no gunky crap in there. Again, just like you just clean it out with like a long brush or something. Give it a good wipe as best you can, and then don't lose your pins. Put it back together. Cycle it, because you just cleaned it and lubed it. It should feel a bit smoother. And that's it. That's your maintenance on your gas blowback MP5. That's that done. Well done. You did it. Like, you just do that after you, not even after every game. When you notice it start getting like sluggy and yeah, not as good. I mean, inside here, inside a gearbox, there are hundreds of different parts, and it's in this one as well, which we'll get into more. It's a proprietary electronic micro switch trigger system that I don't want to fucking touch that. I don't want to get in there and clean that and lube it and stuff. Like, I don't want to take the gearbox apart. I can do a bit of teching on V2 gearboxes, but since I switched to gas blowbacks, I'm just kind of out of practice with taking them apart. They're a massive pain in the ass. Don't really get the myth that gas guns are more maintenance than electric guns, really. It's a load of bullshit, really. I suppose replacement parts for gas blowback guns are harder to come by. So if your trigger breaks or your hammer breaks or something, it's going to be harder to get hold of them. They're probably going to be more expensive than replacing parts like that inside an electric gun. So that's where that myth has a bit of truth, and that's literally it. I prefer running gas guns. I have this for a specific reason. I'll probably invest in more Tokyo Marui NGRS guns for the benefits that they have. I can't remember why we started talking about that, so I'm just going to move on. As soon as you pick this up, you are greeted with like a nice realistic heft. Really nice feel. The plastic feels really good in the hand. It feels really tough. The rubberized grip, it's not actually rubberized, it's just finished to make it feel like it's rubberized. It's really weird. At that point, what's the difference? It feels rubberized, it's nice, it's really super comfy in the hand. The SD's got like a really nice girth to it. It's not too thick, it's not too small. It's just perfect, it's Goldilocks. It's absolutely perfect. It's gotta go from tip to butt. The suppressor, my surprise, it has the realistic texturing on it. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's cool. They've like emulated like the suppressor being kind of burnt up from getting hot from firing lots of rounds through it. But no, it's an actual thing that's on the suppressors. They're just texturized so that you can really get a hand on them, twist them to take them off on the real ones, so that you can get in there and clean the real ones and stuff. Super cool. I thought that was great. Like, I thought that was a really cool idea. It's nice that Tokyo Marui have included that. It is actually really useful in taking it off. So this is a clockwise thread. Unlike a real one and the gas ones, the suppressor doesn't actually go down to the receiver. It's obviously there for looks. It does come off, it's foam filled, it does come off and reveals this right here. It's just well thought out. Your inner barrel's worth noting, your inner barrel's only like that long, so 20 centimeters ish, I guess. I don't know, look it up for the actual measurement. Okay, I can't get this off, I've put it on there way too tight. But this is basically just a thread protector. There's a 14mm counterclockwise thread underneath this protector. I've got it on there too stiff, so I'm not gonna try and hack away at it to get it off. So that's where you can just directly mount a tracer and then cover it up with the suppressor. Thought that was a really nifty idea. However, what I'd like to do is increase this inner barrel length. Though it does come with a cap that you can put on and run it short, which looks really weird because the cap actually, it covers up the threads for the suppressor. I'm not going to get it out of the box. The cap covers up the external suppressor threads and then is held in place by this cap, by this thread protector. You screw that back on, it keeps this little end cap in place. And I guess it's so you can run it round super short, but it looks weird. Yeah, like I don't know. It really takes the MP5SD and gives it like erectile dysfunction. it's not supposed to look like that. It's weird. The Bolt recoil AEGs, they do like a short SD one, and that looks kind of cool. Would have been cool if Marui had done maybe included just a shorter version of this suppressor to put over it instead. I don't know. Maybe that's an aftermarket thing. But yeah, it looked kind of dumb. What I want to do with this, because I'm always going to run it with the suppressor, is have a longer inner barrel. I'm not really bothered about using tracers and stuff. I think they're cool, but actually using them just kind of gives away your position. And the same kind of effect can be done with a flashlight and tracer BBs. So I'm not too bothered about having a tracer in here. If I ever change my mind, I can. I'd rather utilize this barrel length potential to increase the FPS. It seems like a much more effective and practical way to use this space, in my mind. Boom. So then we have our handguard. Lovely, right? So as I said, it's like a rubberized. It feels rubberized. It's not actually rubberized. I think it's just like how they finished the plastic or something. I don't know. Tokyo Marui magic. So there is a teeny little hole in the handguard. The handguard's obviously where your battery's kept. Yeah, it feels weird doing a video talking about batteries. It's usually gas. So you can use like a teeny little, 0.5mm Allen key or something. There's a tiny little hole in the handguard. Underneath that hole is a button. You pop that down, depress the button, and then it moves a latch out the way that you'll see. That allows you to just slide the handguard off. When you have the suppressor off, you can see there is a way of releasing that without poking through the hole. And there is a little catch underneath the suppressor that allows you to move this button out of the way and slide the handguard sleeve off. We Tech, and that's not to be confused with WE, it's WII Tech. They make a B&T handguard for this. That's basically this, but with rails on it. So rails on the 3, 6 and 9 positions. That's really cool. They're really hard to find. I do want one. Yeah, I'll be keeping an eye out for when these are in stock. I can't believe this has to be made out of some kind of rubber. It feels great. It's really good. But yeah, there's a little notch inside it that this button locks into. Simple mechanism. Our battery goes under here. If you got this far, please watch this next bit, because I can just foresee lots of questions about what battery to put in here. I always get loads of questions, and I like getting questions and comments on the videos and stuff, but when it is something that I've explained in great detail in the video, I am kind of just like, just watch the video, just sit on the toilet, do your morning movement, and watch my video, and listen to it. Regardless, I'll happily answer any questions. I have a 7.4. Do not use an 11.1 in here. If you're keeping the gun stock, which you probably just should anyway, I'll have a big rant about that in a bit. But if you're keeping it stock, just use a 7.4. So I've got a 7.4 1200 mAh 25C battery. That's about the maximum like length you can get in there. I've got it so that the wires are on one side and the battery's on the other, so the connection's on the opposite sides of the battery, and then all the wires tuck in that way, battery's that way. Fits nice and easy. And yeah, easy. I mean, like, I've got 2 of those batteries, so I mean, I doubt I'm gonna need 2 for a whole day's play, but you know, it's just in case, you know. So I've got 2 of those batteries, and that should be plenty. That slides right back on and just clicks in nicely, and then boom, batteries in. No gas to worry about. These magazines are so light. I can chuck them around. I can drop them on the floor. It's still expensive. They're still like 35 quid a mag, which is an expensive AEG mag. Cool. So moving on, charging handle. In the NGRS guns, as well as their like recoil system, you know, the electric blowback recoil system, they have some actual functionality as well. With the M4s and the AR sort of series of guns, the 416s and stuff, they have a functioning bulb catch. So when the gun runs dry, the gun will stop firing until you put a fresh loaded mag in there, and then hit the bulb catch, and that then re-engages the trigger system and allows you to actually shoot it again. That's really cool. So you do actually have to, when you reload it, pull back charging handle, new mag in, release charging handle, and you can get to work. That's nice. If someone that's used to using gas rifles and stuff, like it's nice to not go back to just using a toy sewing machine thing. Retains that immersion, gives you the same sort of feel, same kind of gameplay feel as using a gas rifle. It's nice that that has an actual function. Because it has an actual function, they've designed it to put up with a bit of abuse. I have seen that Mayday Sound Airsoft one broke off, so I'm maybe not going to be as violent with it as I was maybe planning on it, or as I am with the VFC one. Maybe just even reloads. On a real one, if you download it by 1 round, you can just do a quick one of those after you've emptied and reload. You do that. The metal receiver is beautiful. It is actually so nice to just look at. I like just looking at this. It's really, really nice. It's really well finished. Although it's not a steel body like HK roller delayed guns, like, you know, this and the G3 and the 53. They will have this thick kind of black oily coating over them. Can't remember what it actually is called. Look at like Forgotten Weapons or someone like that if you want to really get into those nitty-gritty details. It's finished perfectly, so you can't tell that it's not a steel receiver. Maybe the feel of it feels like a thicker and softer metal, but you can only really tell that if you are literally holding it. Whereas, you know, steel, it definitely has a different feel, but unless you know better, like you just can't tell. It's done really, really well. They've done a really, 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 really good job of replicating the look and feel of an actual MP5. Even down to like little details like the fake little welding marks around the suppressor handguard shroud. It's great. It's fantastic. It is truly how you would expect and exceeds the expectations of a very, very well thought out, engineered Japanese craftsmanship replica. It's exactly what you want, and it exceeds expectations. I said in one of my other videos, like, this is how I wished that felt. The VFC. Like there are some areas where I wish this kind of meticulous eye for detail was applied to this instead of the more sort of brute, tough, rough exterior feel. Difficult to explain. Basically, there are some things with that where the quality of this, even though it's definitely more toy-like, for the practicality of its use in playing airsoft, it's far better. I did say I'm not going to directly compare too much, but this is a big important point now that we reached the stock. Alright, this. Well, that. How sick was that, right? Let's do that again. No, in fact, let's do it the other way. Right, open. close. That's how that should work. It should be, look how smooth this is. It feels, I've said it before, it feels like it's on rollers or something in there, but I've taken it off and I can't see it. I can't see rollers, but it feels like it's on little rollers. It's amazing. I know it's a really stupid detail, but that is so good. Like, I don't get why you'd want the full stock on this one, but just because this is so smooth, and then it's solid. Like, it's not, there's no up and down play there. There's a little bit of wiggle in the arms, but that's kind of to be expected. That's perfectly acceptable, negligible, and it's so silky smooth to deploy. Like, you can deploy it with one hand, like, easy. Done. You don't have to take your finger off the trigger if you've got kind of ET hands. But yeah, just like that. Finger stays on the trigger, you're good. There's no need to take your supporting hand off and do it. There's no need to do that. Like, you literally just, and you're ready to go. This, it pops out a little bit, but it requires a considerable more effort. I mean, it feels good to do. It's not a huge deal, I guess. I just wish it was made more better like this. This has been made more better than this in this case. Don't get me wrong, this is still my favourite airsoft gun that I own, 100%. Like, in terms of just its feel overall and its operation and stuff. But this is Tokyo Marui showing them how it should have been done. And that's just how it is, really. It's not the end of the world, but when another company literally does it right, you're like, come on. Enough complaining about the BSC. This is about Tokyo Marui. That's just something very worth making a big deal out of. So now we are at the grip. As I mentioned before, it's a really, really nice, tough, rugged feeling plastic. It feels like if you really try, you can squeeze it a little bit. It's like there's a teeny bit of flex in there where there's not, gearbox components and shit underneath. It's textured really, really well. It's very realistic, and it feels great. It looks the part, and yeah, super happy with it. It's not like Marui's old creaky plastic. It's not like this cheap SEMA plastic. It's super duper nice. So yeah, well happy with this. Let's try that trigger. And the reset. I'm obviously fucking with you. It's an electric gun. It doesn't really have a mechanical trigger, hammer, drop or anything in the sense at all. But it does have, and I'll see if I can just like crank up the bit that I'm getting at when I'm editing this. So it's like a mouse click. You hear that? Okay, so you can train that. That is very trainable, and that's because it's got a new. I say new. It's not exactly new tech. It's new for Tokyo Marui. It's got like a micro switch trigger in there. It's got a MOSFET in there, and it's all proprietary. So I wouldn't mess about with it. That's why they say don't use anything bigger than a 7.4 in there. Don't use an 11.1 because the MOSFET won't be able to handle it. It's not designed to do that. So it's really cool. This is Marui's delve into MOSFETs and microswitch trigger systems and stuff, because obviously we all know when you spam a Tokyo Marui, especially a Tokyo Marui NGRS, when you spam the trigger, trying to do like fast, quick semi-auto shots, the gearboxes just lock up. They're not designed to do that. They're not designed for semi-auto fire. They're designed to get going on full auto and do short bursts. That's what they're made for. That's how they were designed. That was what was in mind. There are very strict semi-auto games in Japan, I know, where you can't actually shoot more than a few times, a certain amount of times in a second. So it's just not something that comes into their design, not something that comes into their gameplay and doesn't trickle into like the design and the requirements of the replicas that are made. And I guess they've just been kind of developing their own way of getting around that, and that is now this sort of system. It'd be nice if Tokyo Marui applied this new system to their older designs, their older guns, so to the rest of the NGRS line basically. But they have a history of not really doing that, so they've not like made all of their AEGs NGRS, you know, they've not gone back and put that tech into their older platforms, so I can't really see them doing it, but I don't know, it could be a thing. It could be cool if they were to put their M system, magnetical fire control system, if they were to put that into all of their NGRS guns. I think that would be a big upgrade that a lot of people would do. But with most of their guns, what people tend to do is just take them apart and put something like a Titan inside them anyway. It's good that you don't need to do that with these. It's good that it comes like out of the box ready to shoot really quickly on semi-auto, so I don't know. Another reason why I went for one of these, because it has that tech in it. I don't need to, you know, put it in myself anyway. Build quality overall is fantastic, really. As I said, I'm not going to beat it to death. It's not made of steel. I'm not going to treat it in the same way that I would the MP5 from VFC. It feels solid, it feels realistic, it feels like I'm holding a gun and not toy. It feels like I'm holding a gas blowback and not a toy AEG. I mean, like, I don't mean to do the Marui fanboy thing too much. Obviously, like, most of my guns aren't Tokyo Marui guns, but with this it's very hard like to not do the Tokyo Marui fanboy thing. And when you actually think about the work and the craftsmanship and everything that goes into making Tokyo Maruis, it is kind of undeniable that they are like a league above everyone else. Everyone that's like, oh, but I could, for the same price, I could get a SEMA and just take everything out of it and put all new stuff inside it, and then I've got a SEMA that's just as good as your Tokyo. That's fuck off. No, you don't. You've got a completely custom made gun that cost you way more than this, and I bet this, even though it doesn't shoot as hard, will still shoot further and more consistently and more accurately out the box than your souped up, gonna run itself to death gun that's been put together badly is gonna actually do. A lot of thought is put into how they operate. Everything's properly calculated, and it's all visible. You can see this in the craftsmanship. It's all like done correctly, especially with this. You know, like, Tokyo Maruis aren't built to do 350 plus FPS. They're just not, because in Japan that's not how the game's played, and in the UK really as well. It's not really, you know, our limits is 350. I sit on the side of the fence that is, if you're going to get a Marui, get one that suits your needs as it is out the box. Now, as time's gone on, tech's progressed, yes, Marui have kind of been a little bit behind the mark in terms of electronic trigger systems and MOSFETs and stuff like that. I don't want to pull my trigger and wait for it to work before it fires. You know, I don't want to be limited to how many times I can pull the trigger within, you know, a matter of seconds to really do what I need to do and risk, you know, the gearbox locking up and everything. So in that regard, they've been a bit behind the mark, and that's required putting upgrades and stuff in. But I don't think you should be changing too much with how it was originally all put to work together, because it was done properly to start with. Manual arm system, electronic trigger, recoil system, blah 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 blah, all these cool features, right? So it'll fire once, because it's empty, the trigger will lock up because there's no BBs in it and stuff like that. How do we stop that? What if we just want to dry fire it, right? That's cool. You can actually switch that function off. If you rack the charging handle straight back and forth 3 times. So don't lock it up, just go straight backwards and forwards 3 times. A blue light will flash inside the magwell, and that means it's all good to go. You can just keep firing it, dry firing it, which is dope. Now you can let it sing. Safe, semi, 3-round burst and full auto. 3-round burst is dope. I think you can get it to do 2. Yeah. Lightly tap the trigger, it might do 2. See if we can get it to do 1. No, it's not going to do that. Alright, then full auto. Just rips. It just fucking rips. And that's why I wanted it. On a nice hot day, or just a normal day, normal English weather day, the gas blowback MP5 will do full auto absolutely fine. Mag dump after mag dump after mag dump. As soon as it starts getting cold, that thing gets cold, and you just can't do it. No, I want that. I want, when it's cold, I want to be able to full auto my MP5. That's what MP5s were made for. MP5s were made for continuous, controllable, full auto fire, like minimal recoil, and it's what they're there for. I don't want to be with my MP5 like. I want to be like this. So that's the whole point of getting the Marui NGRS one. Still get that nice clunky, thumpy recoil. Still get the ability, because with the MOSFET, the micro switch trigger, you still get the ability to spam. You still have a lot of the functionality and the benefits. You have the cut off and the need to do the manual of arms to get back to work. You don't have cooldown, and that's a huge thing. And this just ended up being comprised of a lot of the benefits of having the gas one without a lot of the negatives of having the gas one. Now, it does have its drawbacks too. I don't know what they are yet, to be honest. Keeping an eye on your batteries running out. I've even used this as a battery tester. If you put a battery in there that doesn't work anymore, if you put a dead battery in there, the light will flash red, indicating that that battery is no good anymore. Throw it away. So it's basically a 500 quid battery tester. This is definitely made me think about my position, my stance on gas versus electric. Functionally, it operates, it works like the gas blowback from the user's point of view, not in terms of how it's actually mechanically working, obviously. It's got that consistency and the efficiency and everything of all the benefits of having an electric gun at the same time. There's that too. It's also a fucking laser. I set the hop to 3.2s and it did them perfectly fine, laser straight. I didn't want to use, I was running low on 3.2s, so I just started putting 2.5s in it. I just adjusted the hop for that, and because you're just laser beaming those as well. Like, you don't have the same faff with adjusting the hop, it's just a little wheel. It's a nice little rotary wheel. It doesn't click or anything, but it's quite stiff. With MP5s, but there is a lot of choice, and there are also other electric blowback options out there as well. I'm just going to disregard all your ICS and your SEMA Platinum and all of that out of this equation for me, because I wanted a recoil system, because I'm used to using the gas ones. I know it's not the same, it's not as substantial, but I wanted something. I wanted some feedback and response from the replica. And so the alternatives there are, if you can find them, SEMA did used to make, it was their 49 series, so the CM049 series. They were MP5s that had an electric blowback system in them. It was actually my first AEG, my first ever like Airsoft primary, if you want. I had one, CM049J. It's kind of cool. It had like a RAS rail system, like a Knight's Armament kind of thing. It was obviously not suppressed. It had like the big sort of navy flash hider on it and a fold-in stock. And that was really nice. The only thing was it shot like 400 FPS. And I got it second hand. It was a pretty good nick, and it just kind of died quite quickly. This was like 15 years ago. So this is when stuff that was imported from China didn't have quick change springs to get power down, and everything came into the UK shooting like 400 FPS. So it wasn't really usable, didn't really get to use it, and I sold it and ended up buying a classic army one instead. There wasn't a good way of getting one with the recoil with an electric blowback system, so I just went for one without, that was sort of just a nicer replica. I had that classic army MP5A3 for a little while, and that was dope. The CM049J, if you can find them, that's got an electric blowback. The G&G, the old G&G Top Tech ones, they had a pneumatic blowback thing which used like a bit of air that is seeps out from the workings of it. Not sure what that does for your air seal and your power, but it's enough to push back the little flap. It's not got like a weight or anything on it, but it's just like the dust cover flap basically. Flaps back and forwards when you fire it, makes a nice sort of flappy sound. So there was that option. They do an SD6, which is it was always on the cards. I was looking at some of them when I was trying to get into this. And then there's the Bolt, BRRSS, or whatever it is. And they're really cool. They're not just a blowback, they're actually a recoil. They, much similarly to this, have a weight pulled back by the gearbox spring, the piston spring. So there are a few other options out there. The Bolt, similar kind of price to this, and just wasn't as impressive. And this is kind of something I've found with most EBB guns to be really annoying, and that's that when you fire it, it doesn't always return to being closed. I mean, call me picky, but it's just a bit shit. You want it to be perfectly in sync with your gun firing. When it fires, it opens. When it's stopped firing, it closes. And none of the others can do that. None, like all of them, you fire it a few times and it'll just finish its cycling halfway closed, and it's just a bit shit. It's a bit cheap and shit, and like not more better. This seems to me to just far supersede the quality and functionality of all of those other ones. Plus, this is the only one that has a last round cut off, stops the mag, stops the gun from firing when it's out of ammo, and so it was the only one that required like the realistic manual of arms. Ended up just, it was the only option. The Bolt one as well is also a different colour. Like, it's this weird sort of parkerized steel colour. I'm pretty sure it's an actual steel receiver, so that is one thing that it's got going for it. If I ever wanted like an EBB MP5K, I would look into that, especially if you can put like the old classic army SEF lowers on it. If they're compatible, if they've got some parts compatibility and stuff like that, that is something I'd be interested in doing, because they just save semi-full auto, so an SEF lower on one of those would be kind of cool. That parkerized steel finish is actually an MP5 prototype feature, so like back in whenever they were being designed in the 50s, 60s, that was the finish that was on them before this sort of thick black oily finish. So to do that with an SEF lower, the Bolt one with the SEF lower and like the prototype style handguard, you could get that Black Ops 1 MP5K vibe going with that. That's something I might consider for the Bolt ones. Then just being able to use the straight mags as well. That is a vibe. Otherwise, I get a gas one, and if I get a gas one, I just get the BFC because I've got all the mags for it. For MP5K, the Bolt was a kind of a cool option. But for this, I wanted to retain the functionality and the manual of arms and stuff as well. And so the Tokyo Marui was just the obvious choice. Chrono-wise, I expected it to be doing the usual Tokyo Marui out the box 280 to to 290 FPS on 0.2 gram BBs. This wasn't. This is doing between 310 and 315 out the box. I thought mine could be an anomaly, so tested my housemate's one as well to have a sort of a bigger, even though it's just one more, any kind of bigger sample size to test with is a good thing. And his was doing about the same. His was doing around 310. That's a very well received, unexpected surprise there. We were expecting to, if we wanted to, you know, compete a bit more over long range, not that that's what these are for, but if we wanted to compete a bit more over longer range distances, that we'd need a bit of a power bump. Don't really. This is gonna be just fine. I feel fine leaving it how it is and going to play outdoors. 315 on 0.2s. I'm obviously going to use 3.2s. That's going to come down a fair bit to, you know, around 280, 270, 280. But that's what most Tokyo Marui shoot on 2s. So, especially if people have had them for a few years and that power creeps down. That was a nice unexpected surprise. I do still want to try and bump that up a bit and longer in a barrel. So like a lilac or a maple leaf in a barrel would bump that power up a little bit, keeps the air pressure on the round for longer, allows it to build up more speed before it exits the barrel. That's kind of all you need to do to it. There was a lot of like upgrade packages I've seen on these from, you know, places like Fire Support and Eagle 6 that do a lot of Tokyo Marui upgrade stuff, and it's all to get the power up and get the rate of fire up and improve the trigger response, and it's all like stuff that it makes sense when it's done to the older NGRS guns that don't have a MOSFET and, you know, are doing that 270, 280 out the box. But I don't see how it makes sense for this. It's like those people that are buying those upgrade packages aren't really aware of the differences that this has and just think it's like a standard NGRS. You know, they're getting a Titan put in it, which is an expensive upgrade. You know, upgrading all the gears and the spring and the barrel and stuff to get the power up and the trigger response more better, and it's just like, have you actually used this yet? Like, just use it. Just have it for a month and use it. This is the most out-of-the-box ready gun I've ever seen, ever. Whenever you get like a SEMA or a double bell or a G&G or anything, you know that you're going to have a few games of that and then you're going to need to do some upgrades to it. You're going to need to do something to it because it's just not going to work like it did when you first took it out of the box. But I know from my experience with Tokyo Marui and my friend's experience with Tokyo Marui is they just last. If you leave them alone, they will last. I have an AK that was like 20 years old, never been opened up, never not had any work done inside it. It was completely bone stock. I still had the original box and packaging and stuff. It just worked. It sounded great. And my mate had an M16A1. He stopped playing Airsoft for like 15 years. It literally just sat in the box. He took it out of the box, put a battery in, and it worked fine and sounded fine. And by that I mean like thud, thud. Like, you shouldn't hear like the scratching of gears. Some guns you just inherently can, for some reason they're just not shimmed right out the factory and you can just hear the gears scratch. It sounds horrible. It's that typical AEG whiny scratchy sound. Not with these, like with my housemate's M16 with my old AK, get that nice thuddy sound of the piston dropping. You know, they're old. I think if you just kind of mostly leave it alone inside the gearbox, just leave it alone, it will last a long time because it was put together right. It was put together by people that just know what they're doing. And they know what each part does and how it affects the mechanical function and use of all the other parts around it, and that's important. When you've got like a Chinese or a Taiwanese factory and just like a factory line, people one person might put like 3 bits in, then move it on, and then the next person puts the next bits in, then moves it on, and those people don't really know what those next bits are going to do to affect those bits. When it comes to stuff like shimming and that, and it's done that way, there's no room for the attention to detail to be applied. There's no margin for manufacturing differences to be taken into consideration. So, you know, one gearbox, it might be exactly the same, you know, at first glance, but one gearbox might need an extra shim on that side to actually make it interact compared to the one before and the one after, just because of those slight inconsistencies in manufacturing. No, I don't know, I've never been to an airsoft factory in China. I just can't imagine that there's time for that kind of attention to detail. It seems with Tokyo Maruis there are, and I guess the only evidence I've got of this really is working with them, using them a lot and seeing the differences, hearing the differences, feeling the differences between them, between their build quality, the craftsmanship, the design, attention to details. Just to go back to
fanboying, being a Tokyo Marui fanboy, I mean, it's a term for a reason. They are kind of the best at what they do, and I think now that they've got this M system and their own MOSFET, and this gun's doing 315 out of the box, I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure that was with 0.2. That could have been with 0.2. I think they're just a bit mixed up, but I mean, either way is really good. It kind of renders them a little untouchable now, to be honest. If you're weighing up MP5s right now and you're an AEG purist, like you don't want to touch the gas ones, and you're weighing this up against the SEMA Platinum or the Bolt, I think you'd be silly not to pick this, is my honest opinion. You can get a SEMA Platinum, you can upgrade internal parts and stuff, but you're never going to have the cut-off when you're empty, the need to do the manual of arms, that sort of realism and the immersion that you until now had to go to gas blowback guns to achieve and to obtain and get. You also, with the SEMA Platinum, you won't have like an electric recoil system. You go for the Bolt, but it'd be a weird colour. And you don't have, again, the cut-off and the manual of arms and the need to do all of the operation and stuff like that, the realism, the immersion. Something with the Bolt, you get like a steel receiver, which is cool. But honestly, steel receiver, when it's finished like this, you don't need it. It's for an airsoft replica, for a toy, yeah, it's a detail that at least I'm willing to overlook for every other feature that it has. Probably the only downside to it is that it's not made of steel, the only downside so far. So with its full auto capabilities, this is going to be my outdoor colder weather gun. Or just if I want to run an MP5SD. With it being electric, it is quieter than the gas blowback. And the SD aesthetic kind of suits that sort of kineticness feel, if you want. It feels right. It feels like if one of them's going to be quieter because it's electric, it should be the SD. If I want to run an SD, I've got an SD. But as my general go-to outdoors gun for colder weather, it's going to be this, just because I can still go full auto. I now feel less inclined to want to use this with a suppressor because I have an SD, so there's no need to run it with like the can on there, the silencer code can. This is now makes a lot more sense to be like nice and short. It's good. It's good to have variety, good to have options. My first impressions are definitely still that this is an over-engineered Japanese replica of an over-engineered German masterpiece. It's just the best of both. And that's my first impressions of it. It's fantastic. I don't want people thinking that all my first impressions videos are going to be, oh my god, drooling over everything, because they haven't been. If you go back and watch my first impressions of the SIG Rattler from VFC, that was not good. That was not a good time. Not a fun time. So I'm not just going to say nice things about everything that I get because I bought it and I want to say nice things about it. If there was anything genuinely wrong with this, I would be honest about it. even though it makes me look like a tit for spending the money on it and it not being good. I don't care. Like, I'm going to be honest about these things. If there was something wrong with it, I would flat out say that there was something wrong with it. So if I find anything wrong with it, as time goes on, I will 100% make a video about it. Feels like the right way to do this kind of thing. When you're putting content out on the internet, you're kind of becoming a research tool for people looking to purchase or learn about something, right? Keeping things up to date in terms of, you know, your experience with it and using it and stuff, short term and long term, and any issues you run into, documenting that and updating your portfolio of research for, you know, someone in a sense is what it is. Just an important thing to do. Keep people informed. So yeah, first impression is it's fucking phenomenal, and I'm really looking forward to getting it broken in, seeing how tough it really is. Definitely need more mags though. So before I get it outside, it's probably going to be warm before I can actually get it outside. Externally, I'm not really planning on doing much more to it, to be honest. The only internal upgrade I'm going to do is the barrel. I'm going to keep the same hop rubber and hop unit and everything, and just upgrade the barrel, not go too nuts on it. Maybe I can get another sort of 15 to 20 FPS out of it. That'd be great. Not that it needs it, I just, you know, why not? If I ever decide to use it indoors, I'll get a flashlight mount. I'll mount it just to the suppressor. I would like the B&T style rail handguard for it. So as soon as one of those comes up and I find it and they're in stock somewhere, I'll snap one of those up. And then at the moment I'm just running the Vic Optics like Maverick red dot on it from Vector Optics. That's been my first impressions on the Tokyo Marui NGRS MP5SD6. Thank you for checking out this video, and I'll see you in the next one.